welcome back to the Happy Horse Nutrition Podcast and another Q&A session with the one and only Orla. Welcome back, Orla.
Nerida.
It's so good to have you back again.
No, thank you. It's good.
Look at us in our pink shirts today.
I know, we're matchy-matchy.
And today actually is a very exciting day because we released the app.
Oh,
into
yes.
the App
Yes,
Store.
yes, yes. Very exciting.
Oh, it was exciting. And I sent Matt, the software developer, in his amazing map, but I sent him a message and I waited until 6:30. I was very polite. I didn't send it to him at 5. Then I sent him a message this morning with this little dog dancing on his feet going, can I press the button now? Can I press the button now?
Release.
Yeah, so it's officially in the App Store, which is so cool.
Oh, well, at least you're polite. Not like me messaging you last night. Go, excuse me, can you please put up rice bran in at 8 o'clock at night so I can do my horse's diet?
No, I'm very happy for your help with finding the ingredients that we don't have in our database yet. And I do still need to add rice bran in for you. It's easy peasy.
So waiting patiently.
Rice bran oil.
All right, I have a bunch of questions from a mix of the background of your Dr. Nerida AI. And I'm going to cross off some fun ones because AI is not always correct. And gives you some real stupid answers. So one of the questions, so I just have them asterisked and it just says dumb answer. So I don't know what the answer was. But someone had asked, is it okay to feed your horse immediately after riding? And AI gave it a nonsensical answer.
Yeah, it said, I read it and I was like, seriously. But as we all know, AI sometimes gets things wrong. And it wasn't a bad answer. It just said, wait for a while. But honestly, I mean, there's a few reasons why you want to feed your horse immediately after riding. So, and when I say immediately after riding, I was thinking about this. I came in from a ride on my gorgeous little Dellinger last night, and we'd been out, we'd done a substantial amount of work. But then, we're walking home, long reins, just plonking along home. And so by the time I get back, she's cooled off. And she's not sweaty anymore. She's definitely not puffing anymore. And I literally will come in to where I saddle up. I hop off her. I take her bridle off and she wanders over to her hay that she hadn't finished eating before we left for the ride. And she just starts munching on that again. I'll go and put my helmet and my bridle away, come back out, take the saddle off. So she's just standing there then not tied up or restrained in any way eating her hay. And then I'll bring her feed out. So, within 5 minutes of me being back or less, she's getting her evening meal. I mean, it's great to get something back in their gut again, and her feeds are very fiber-based. But for horses, my brain's just split in about 5 different directions. So let me go. Let me start with one concept at a time. So for a horse that you're building muscle on, as an example, getting protein into them immediately after work means that you are feeding the muscles right when those muscles are going, okay, we just did work and we want to build up. So there's some amino acids that will shut muscle breakdown down. And then there's one particular amino acid that will turn muscle building on. And then all the other amino acids are in there to feed the muscles. So you give them something like full fat soybean or some sort of whey protein supplement, something that's really, really high quality protein immediately after work, and you're stopping the muscles from breaking down and you're giving them everything they need to switch muscle building on and build muscles up in that critical time window after work. For horses that are, let's say, an eventer who has just gone out and done a whole bunch of hill sprints for fitness, and you come back in, again, assuming the same scenario where the horse has had time to cool off under saddle and it's not puffing anymore when it comes back to be unsaddled, you feed that horse, just assume that it's on a grain-based feed, very digestible grain-based feed. If you give that horse that grain-based feed immediately after work, then straight away it can suck that glucose in out of its small intestine and start rebuilding its muscle glycogen supplies. Or for horses that so say the ponies we have here that my nieces ride, they'll go for a ride and then as soon as we come back to unsaddle, there's usually still hay there that they had from when we were saddling up, and they'll start eating that straight away. But I love that too, because we will, sometimes we go out riding for an hour and a half, just trail riding. And so getting them back and allowing them to eat hay straight away means that like immediately you're getting saliva and fiber back into their gut, and you're giving them that protection from gastric ulcers again. So there's lots of reasons to feed horses immediately after work, within the first half an hour after work. And there's also no downside to it that I know of. I think I often think about, people saying don't give a hot horse access to water. I'm like, it's the most ridiculous thing because, how often are we like puffed and hot and sweaty from doing whatever we've just done, gone for a big run or whatever, and all you want is a massive drink of water because you're thirsty and you need to rehydrate. I mean, horses are the same, but I actually think it was Black Beauty that...
Oh my God, it was. You're right. Well, I get around that era anyway.
Yeah, but in Black Beauty, he comes back from fetching the doctor and the stable hand gives him the cold water. And then he colics.
Yeah.
From that point forward, from like what the 1800s or
into the present.
from way back then, that we've had this thing in the industry that you shouldn't give a hot horse access to water. I mean,
it's like don't let a hot horse have standing water on it in a humid climate. That was something that I was told when I first came to Australia. We were at the Magic Millions. It's boiling. And I got the hose and I just sprayed all the horses down. And the yearling manager's like, "No, stop what you're doing. He's like, you're going to kill them." I was like, "What?" He's like, "You're going to cook them. The water is going to stay on their body and it's going to cook them from the inside out." And I was like, this industry is backwards.
Yeah, see, that's broken my brain a little bit. I mean, it would be much better if there was some sort of airflow. Because, I mean, when it's really humid, and man, the Gold Coast can be so humid sometimes, it is very, very difficult for evaporative cooling to work. But in saying that, a horse's natural response in very hot and humid climates is to sweat. And the sweat stays on their body because it doesn't evaporate very well in really humid climates. But they'd all be dead if that was true.
Dr. Marlin, he did a thing about it not long ago. He put that to bed, but I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. And ideally, if you were exercising horses or have horses in those really hot, humid climates, then hose them down for long enough that you've actually cooled them off. And then, they're nice and cool anyway. But
also just, and I'm going to add 2 questions, and this was an AI silly answer. Is it okay to feed before riding? I'm going to add in, is it allowed when you're like going for a trail ride? Is it okay to allow your horse to eat while riding?
Yes. Yep. Excellent questions. And yes, I was a little disappointed with the AI for the answer it gave because it's my test question with it is, can I feed my horse before I ride? Yes, and you must. So should I feed my horse before I ride? Absolutely. And there's a whole podcast on this. I think it's like number 3 is feed lucerne before you ride. And a horse's stomach, over the 55 million years that they have been evolved to constantly be full. So there is never a time that a horse's stomach should be empty. And if you ride a horse on an empty stomach, then the pool of acid that they end up with at the bottom of their stomach will squeeze or splash up onto the top of their stomach and actually eat holes through the top of their stomach and cause squamous gastric ulcers. So you must feed your horse before you ride so that you're making sure that the stomach is full and you're not getting that acid splash or acid squeeze and the ulcers forming. But you should never feed a horse grain before you ride, ever. For a few reasons. One, grain will make the acidity and the risk of ulceration higher in the stomach during your ride. And the second is, and particularly if you're competing in something that actually requires a fair bit of muscular effort, so show jumping at high levels or eventing or playing polo cross, anything like that, racing. If you feed grain before you ride or compete them, the grain gets digested in the small intestine and absorbed as glucose. The starch gets absorbed as glucose, and then that triggers an insulin response. So then you set up like this fight in their muscles where the insulin is saying to the muscles, there's too much glucose in the blood, you need to store some away. But then the exercise process is going, well, hang on a minute, we need energy here. Like, stop stashing it away. We need it to burn. So you can create a sort of a sluggish fatigue-like state. Maybe, the post-Christmas lunch, I've just eaten more energy than I need for the next week, and yet all I want to do is go and lie down and have a sleep. It's not quite that extreme, but there is that tussle in the muscles for, one system is saying mobilize energy, the other is saying no, store it away. So don't feed grain before you ride, but absolutely feed hay. Lucerne or alfalfa hay is brilliant because it's a natural buffer itself, so it gives you extra protection from gastric ulcers. But if you can't or don't feed lucerne or alfalfa, just any hay will do. And if you don't have hay, then chaff is better than nothing. But if you've got the choice between chaff and hay, always go hay because you get so much more saliva production, and the saliva is really important for protecting the stomach from the ulceration because it dilutes and buffers the gastric acid.
I'm going to start calling it the grain sweats.
Yeah.
Instead of the meat sweats.
It's I was going to say something else too. Oh, and is it okay if you feed
while you're riding?
While you're riding,
yes, trail riding.
And I've actually been laughing at my horses because I've been riding out in it's one of gorgeous neighbours' paddocks, but it's a lucerne paddock. And so we ride in this lucerne paddock, and whenever we we'll do it, it's a big paddock, and I'll often use it to do sort of hand gallop type gallops out there and stuff, and then after that I'll generally just stop and let them just chill and stand and do nothing for a while, and I'm sure if my horses could talk, I reckon they would say, well, see, you say it's good to eat lucerne before you ride, so it's got to be good to eat lucerne during a ride, so they're chowing down on all this fresh lucerne out while we're riding. But absolutely, it is absolutely okay and a wonderful thing to let your horses eat during a ride, particularly on a trail ride. And we do this when we're mustering, because we can be out mustering for hours. So whenever we're waiting, then we let them eat. It was a similar thing, I was so relieved the night before the ride started. But Ride and I went and did a ride down in the Kosciuszko Mountains over Easter this year. And Brad, our guide, was giving us a rundown on, all the rules. And it was brilliant. Like, I learnt so much from this guy. And that one of the rules was, if we are stopped, you let your horses eat. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness, because I don't have to sit there then thinking about my horse getting ulcerations. So yeah, but he it was cool in that situation. I mean, these are trail horses too, and they're doing this day in, day out, and they're beautiful horses. Like, mine was this gorgeous big warm blood mare, like full of beans. Like, she was a machine. This horse is not like a head to tail trail ride pony by any means. But what Brad would get us to do is when we were riding somewhere and they knew we were stopping, he would get us to actually turn around and face the other horses that hadn't come in yet, and then they were allowed to eat.
Okay.
So, and with my own horses, like, I'm always letting my horses eat while I'm on them, but they don't eat until I just push lightly on their necks, and they know then that they're allowed to eat, because otherwise you end up with these, and particularly with kids, they're ripping them. Like, I literally have had my son pulled off a horse who put its head down to eat, and he just went with it, which was hilarious. And he was fine. But yeah, you want them to have some sort of cue to know that they're allowed to eat.
I was going to say that because we do the talks at Pony Club, and would always, be telling them, let your horse eat, but take your horse away from its group and give it its time and give it its cue. Like, because you could see parents be like, we've told them not to let them eat. I'm like, no. There's a cue.
Yeah.
Train the horse and train the child to do this together.
They learn, they learn so quickly that there is a cue.
I put my hand on Bravo's neck and he's like, whoa, straight to the ground.
Yeah. No, and it is a good thing. I mean, particularly if you're out, for more than an hour riding, but it just keeps them happy too. They're chewing and they're wired to chew, so they're not. I was actually pondering this the other day. Like, I was riding home, it was moonlight, it was beautiful, and riding back from a ride and thinking, how crazy are these animals to let us stick all this stuff on them and sit on their backs? Like, it's just nuts, and yet they do it so willingly. So I think.
Did you say a moonlight ride?
I was out, yeah.
Oh, of course you were.
Yeah. I love this phase of the moon. I love because it was full moon yesterday, but just before full moon when it's a massive moon and it's already up when the sun goes down, so you get like all these extra hours of riding time because it's moonlight.
Yeah. Oh, very cute. Okay, actually, I have a question. It's from Aussie Horse Nutrition page. The devil. Her name was Jess. If she happens to listen, or I will post this on her comment. But she got her hay tested, and then she had zero idea how to read her hay results. What are your main 3 things that you're looking for? And I know you talked about this before. Or is there a way that she can go somewhere, like maybe to the Happy Horse app and put the hay results in and get them ready for her? Like, how does she go about this apart from just given a piece of paper and going, here you go?
Yeah, and that is the problem. Like, I am such an advocate for buy tested hay. Like, for goodness sakes, just buy tested hay, or if you're buying hay in large amounts, have it tested. But the problem is if you test it after the fact and it's got something in it that you don't want, then you've got all this hay that what are you going to do with it now?
Sure.
It's always best to buy hay already with a test result if you can. And certainly now in Australia, there is hay available that already has test results, which is excellent. But yeah, for reading it, it just becomes numbers. What does 5 milligrams of copper mean? Unless you put it up against what your horse's requirements are, and you will be able to right now in the My Happy Horse app. You can't put them in. But that is definitely a feature that we will be building in so that, you can upload your own hay and pasture analyses so that you can look at it in there. But it really depends. So there's a couple of things. The number one thing I look for, and I always ask for it to be tested, as nitrate. We see nitrate accumulation in hay a lot, and it's toxic. So, it's probably the most important thing to get tested in your hay to make sure that the hay that you're buying is not going to do massive damage in your horse's gut, or if you've got performance horses, not going to be turning their hemoglobin into meth hemoglobin, which doesn't carry oxygen. There's lots of reasons why you want to know. And in brood mares, if you get nitrate at 3,000 parts per million, which is not uncommon, you will abort foals at that level. So it's really important. So that's number one. Performance horses, I also love to see a mold and yeast count so that I know that they're not sucking a whole heap of rubbish into their lungs and causing respiratory problems. And then outside of that, it depends on the horse. So the water-soluble carbohydrate and starch levels, I like to see for every kind of horse, but the levels that I want are going to depend on what the horse is doing. So if you've got a laminitic horse, then you want the water-soluble carbohydrate plus starch to be less than 10%, because that's the level that we need it at to stop them from having laminitis triggered. And some horses are so sensitive that even that is too much, but they are reasonably uncommon, thank goodness.
I'm sorry, the abbreviation for water-soluble carbohydrates when you read a bag and when you read hay is?
WSC. Yeah. WSC. There's also ESC, and it can get a little bit confusing, and there's lots of people that will say, no, it's ESC plus starch that you want to look at, but we have no scientific evidence that I know. And to be honest, I'm just not game to ignore that gap between WSC and ESC, because usually ESC will be lower. But so I always say WSC plus starch, less than 10% for anything that's got any tendency towards laminitis for any reason. But then performance horses, so race horses, we spoke a lot in the last Q&A with you about feeding race horses. For race horses, I want that WSC plus starch to be above 14, but less than 18. So above 14, because that will give the hay energy, and it'll be quite sweet, so quite palatable, and they'll go and eat lots of it, because you don't want these bland, sugarless hays for racehorses, because you want them to eat lots of the hay so that they maintain their weight really well. But more than 18%, and certainly more than 20%, that's when I start to get a little bit worried that we're going to start to flip their microbiome back towards the starch and sugar fermenters, because when you get that really high WSC, a lot of that will be fructan, which is a highly fermentable carbohydrate, but not digestible in the small intestine. And it'll do the same thing as putting starch in the hindgut. So between 14 and 18% is, I think, the sweet spot. And again, this is just me feeling around over my career with what kind of works. Yeah, and then the energy is interesting. If you've got an overweight horse, then you want something that's really low in energy. If you've got a performance horse, then you want something that's really high in energy. Protein is really important. So there's a racing stable that I have been just helping a little bit over the last few months and had issues with arrhythmias. And I looked at the diet, put the diet through My Happy Horse, and it was like, well, sodium's low. I'm like, well, that wouldn't be helping with arrhythmias because you need your electrolytes to be just, spot on. There wasn't salt blocks, and they will put salt blocks in, start getting some salt into the feed. And then they got their hay tested, and it was high in protein. It was like 14.5% protein. I'm like, this is now making sense. This is making sense, because when you've got that much protein in your base hay, so this is the hay that they had free access to eat pretty much as they wanted, as a heap of excess protein that they need to get rid of. And to do that, they urinate a lot, and then they're dumping all their electrolytes. So when I saw the hay analysis, I went, this is making a lot more sense of what you're seeing. So for performance horses, and particularly stable performance horses, I don't want a lot of protein in their grassy or their oaten base hays. 10%, 11% would be plenty, whereas 14.5 is actually quite high. And for a mature lemonitic pony, then 14.5 is quite high as well, and that hay would be quite high in energy because of the protein content. Whereas for a breed mare, a lactating breed mare, like, give me as much of that 14.5% protein as you can, because it's hard to meet their protein requirements because they're pumping so much protein out in milk every day. They're making 3% of their body weight in milk every day. There's a massive amount of protein in that. So yeah, it's just all just depends on the horse. I mean, I love to see the minerals, so calcium and phosphorus. If you can get it, then you want the more calcium than phosphorus in hays. You don't always get that, but if you're aware of that, at least you can then balance your diet back up so that calcium and phosphorus in the overall diet is balanced. Race horses and other performance horses, lots of potassium is a good thing because it naturally buffers them. It will create an alkaline environment in their body. So you don't want dairy cow hay because they deliberately make dairy cow hay. They deliberately, this is what happens when you start to think about acid-base balance in your horse's diet. It's one of the most complicated areas of nutrition. But in dairy cattle, if the cow's diet is too high in potassium and sodium and it's making their body too alkaline, when they calve, they can't mobilize calcium and maybe magnesium, and then they get milk fever. So they have to bring their forages right down in potassium to control the acid-base balance of the diet so that they don't get milk fever, which means that hay grown for the dairy industry is generally quite low in potassium. I'm like, we don't want that. We want high potassium because it's naturally buffering. And then, copper, zinc, selenium and iodine, we pretty much know they're going to be low. I mean, it's interesting to see the levels, but it doesn't make a whole lot of difference because we usually have to supplement with them anyway.
Can you copy your feed results and put it into Dr. Nerida AI?
I don't know. I've never tried. Yeah, I've never tried. Yeah.
I might. I just thought of that.
I know the real me could read it. You're
not helpful on Aussie Horse Nutrition page.
No. But no, I don't know whether the AI will read that or not.
Yeah, I'll test it later. Okay, because there was a bunch of questions about what is NSC and ESC and how can I find low NSC forages. So thank you.
So NSC, I'll just clarify that one, is non-structural carbohydrate, which is the WSC plus starch.
Yes, equals NSC.
Equals NSC, yep. And that's the one that you want less than 10% for lemonitic horses.
Yes, and that's what you're also going to read because there's another question about it on bags. A lot of questions I get are about how to read the back of a bag, and that's what you're always going to find is those rates on the back of the bag. Just going to put that out there.
And there is a I don't think it's been released yet, but on the Queensland Off the Track Nutrition Hub there is a whole video about reading feed labels.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah,
excellent. That's so good to hear.
when it's released, I'll try and remember to come back and put the link to it in the show notes for this podcast.
Cool. All right.
Hey, quick moment while you're listening. If feeding your horse ever feels like a puzzle that a toddler has been playing with missing or half-chewed pieces, you are exactly who we built My Happy Horse for. The app makes everything clear, simple, and tailored to your horse, so you always know when you're doing the right thing. Check it out at myhappy.horse or find it on the App Store. All right, back we go.
Thank you from me for talking about your off the track. And you mentioned that you feed flaxseed and canola oil. Everyone hates canola oil, so that's just coming from me. Thank you. Why do you do that as well?
It's a funny one. I spoke up. Ryan and I were at Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within live event in Sydney, which is the coolest thing ever. It was like a massive dance party for 3 days and just so much fun. But there was a lady on the last day of that event. They do lots of nutrition, and some of it, I just have to bite my tongue just going, I'd really like to get into your nutrition notes and change a bit of this stuff. I'm not a human nutritionist, but one of the things is that canola oil is not on the nice oils list. And the lady next to us got a little bit upset when I said something about how, the canola oil it's a lovely oil. If you go digging back through the history of canola oil, what happened was the saturated oil industry, so palms and your coconut oils, controlled the market. They were the oil industry. And then Canadians have bred their rapeseed to be low enough in the prussic acids and all the other anti-nutritional factors that it had in it to be edible. So all of a sudden the saturated oil industries had this massive competitor, and they just started a mudslinging match.
You're right.
So a lot of the negativity around canola oil is from mudslinging between two oil industries.
Right. That's really interesting because I didn't know that. And yeah, again, when I was deep diving through Aussie Horse Nutrition page, everyone just hates canola oil.
And I love it. And I just recorded a podcast about feeding for coat condition. And for horses on forage-only diets where, their intake of omega-3 is really high, but not necessarily much omega-6, I actually really love it in their diets for coat condition because it brings in some omega-6. And omega-6 is an essential nutrient. They need it. They have to have it. It does all these really important things. And the nice thing about canola oil is it's very roughly 20% omega-6, 10% omega-3. So in using it, you're bringing in some omega-6. You're also bringing in some omega-3. If you're just feeding for coat condition, you'd be doing a couple of tablespoons to a quarter of a cup a day.
Yeah.
And you bring in that little bit of omega-6. And if you mix it with flaxseed oil, then you go to tip the ratio back the other way where there's more omega-3 than omega-6. But corn oil and sunflower oil, I do not use. They're massively high in omega-6 and contain less than 1% of omega-3. So those two I don't use. I'll use some sunflowers in feeds, but I don't use their oils because it's just too much omega-6. But canola's lovely from that perspective because it's got some, but not very much.
Okay. Love it. Thank you. Staying on oils. Your AI couldn't give this an answer, and I can never pronounce this word, so I apologize.
Linolenic?
Yeah, thank you. I was like, no, it's not even going to roll off my tongue.
So linoleic acid being omega-6 and the plant omega-6, so the shorter omega-6. So the omega fatty acids, when they come from plant sources, are short. When they're eaten, they go through metabolic processes and they get elongated into the really long named things like the EPA and the DHA, eco, hexanoic, whatever, I don't know, DOCO, something or other. I can't remember. Sometimes I can remember them and sometimes I can't. Today is I can't. But the EPAs are the DHAs, so they're the metabolically active omega-3s, but the linoleic acid is omega-6 in plant form, the short form. Was there actually a question about it?
What is it?
Oh, what is it?
Was the question, yeah.
Oh, there you go.
That. But all that came to my head was like, omegas. Okay, and I think this might be the last one. I don't know, because this might go on. Hairy caterpillars. When your horse eats them.
Yeah.
What happens?
Yeah, I saw that in the back end questions from the Dr. Nerida AI, and I was like, oh man, we really need to put an answer in for that. So the thing with hairy caterpillars, there was, and I can't remember how many years ago. It was way before you, Orla. There was a massive amount of abortions in the Hunter Valley, like massive.
Yeah, it was like
amount.
2014. I remember
No,
having
it
it.
was before that.
Oh,
I
we
reckon it
must
was
have another
before
outbreak.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It might have been another one then, but
Yeah,
I reckon the original one that started all the research was, and no one knew what was causing it. Anyway, it turned out that the processionary caterpillars, which are they are very cute.
They are
The
cute.
little caterpillars that all follow each other along in a train, but they've got these long hairs on them. And those hairs, if a horse eats them, migrate out of the gut and all over the place in the body, and then they'll set up infection. So when they were doing the research on the hairy caterpillars, like they were literally blending them up and then dosing horses with them, they were finding them in the liver and like all over the place. But in a pregnant mare, what happens is that the hairs migrate out of the gut and then make their way to the placenta and set up an infection, and then the mare will abort.
Mm-hmm.
So for an ordinary horse, I mean, I've found their nests here where we are. We have them, but touch wood, they don't seem to do anything in a non-pregnant horse.
Mm-hmm.
At least I haven't. Maybe I've missed something in the research, but I'm not aware of any negative consequences in a non-pregnant horse. But certainly in pregnant horses, that can set up the really bad placentitis, and then the mare will abort. So.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of research. It's all done here in Australia. The research that I'm thinking of, I saw a lot of it presented back when Tomeo was baby, so 16 years ago. But yeah, so if they eat, and it can be a very dead, like from years ago. Is it exoskeleton? my insect terminology is not the best. Oh, if they eat that, it's still because it's the hairs that are causing the problem, not the caterpillar itself as such.
You're right. Because do you remember what tree they are always found on? I should know. I have one in my garden.
Yeah, so there's the white cedar tree that they absolutely love. Yeah. But then we have no white cedar trees here, and they will still, like, they'll go up in a lot of eucalypts, and it's why a lot of stud farms have broodmare paddocks that don't have many trees in them.
Right. Yeah, because we get infested. Like they get into every crevice.
Oh wow.
Everywhere. Yeah, it's awful.
Oh wow.
Yeah, 2 years ago, like I'll open a cupboard, like a thing outside. And I'll go and pull out like whatever pillows are in there, and you lift up a pillow and there's just thousands dead ones on the bottom. You're like, ugh.
Oh, and you have a white cedar tree.
Yeah. And it's a great tree. I'm not going to cut down the tree. And it does great shade for the dogs. And it's not in the horse paddock, thankfully. But yeah, you see them like toddling off to the paddock, and I'm like, please don't eat that. So they haven't killed my geldings.
Yeah. And it's interesting, isn't it? Like you'd think that if it was able to set up infection in placenta, then it would also be able to set up infection in other places of the body. But maybe the immune system is able to get on top of those like really quickly, but for whatever reason, the placenta, I'm sure this is in the research. A lot of it was done. Judy Cordell Smith did a lot of the research. So yeah, I'll make a note to put a link to some of the papers in the show notes.
I'll add to my list of reading. Okay, do I have time for some more?
Well, why don't we do one more question, and then I have some questions for you.
Okay. There was one. I've got so many like ticks and crosses and everything on my little piece of paper. Yes, legumes, legume kernels, fava beans, mung beans. Do they need to be extracted? Do they need to be extruded or heat processed for digestibility?
No, they don't. So some of them, soybean hulls definitely need to be heat treated, not to make them digestible. So they're fine. None of them need to be heat treated for digestibility. They're all super digestible. Well, I shouldn't say that. I actually don't know off the top of my head mung beans. I know chickpea hulls are very poorly digested, which makes them a really cool ingredient because they're very fibrous, but they don't have much energy. The actual chickpea hulls. So I haven't been able to use them much in formulations over the years, but I have used them and I really like them. But the soybean hulls definitely need to be heat treated to make them safe to feed. So so raw soybean hulls, so ones that haven't gone through any heat treatment, will still have active trypsin inhibitor, which is the little compound that stops the trypsin enzyme from digesting protein. And I think we have covered this in a podcast already, like the severe protein deficiency I saw in some horses in riding stables down in Sydney. They were had backs like tents. They just lost all their muscle, and they were on a raw, unbeknownst, this pellet should never have been sold into the horse industry, but it was being sold as a horse feed. And the horse owners trust horse feed companies, and so they were feeding it and not couldn't understand why their horses were losing so much condition. So they definitely need to be heat treated. But the others, I mean, often they will get, pressed into a pellet or something like that, but the others don't need heat treatment as such because they don't have the anti-nutritional factors that the soybean has.
So just on that, why do some feeds put a starch content or percentage on the bag of, oh my God, brain. When you look at the back of a bag and it will have lupins, there will be a starch percentage. Why do they do that?
Like a really low starch percentage?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's handy for a few reasons. So for anyone who's got a laminitic horse and you're looking for a low starch, low sugar feed so that you don't trigger their laminitis, then you have to know the starch content. So they put it on there. There's probably been a shift recently more towards putting the starch content on a feed. I mean, I used to say, if it's a performance horse feed, then it's going to have starch in it. And why do we need to know the starch content? I've definitely changed my view on that now. I'd really love for all feed bags to have the starch content, because if we're trying to, even in our previous Q&A, and you asked, do we feed sprinters different to long distance racehorses? And we do, and one of the differences is how many grams of starch per kilogram body weight we give them. But unless I know the amount of starch in a feed, I can't work that out. So I frustrate myself now with all the labels that I've written over the years that there's no starch content on there. But hopefully when those labels get redone at whatever point in future, that it will be more and more common that starch is on all feeds, high starch feeds and low starch feeds, because we know it's important now from we're talking grams per kilogram body weight of starch from an ulcers perspective, where we didn't do that 15 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago. We just didn't have the research around how much starch was too much when it came to ulceration.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Well, that Luke Wells Smith was questioning me about starch in the back of a bag, and I put my feed rep pants back on. I was arguing with him. I was like, bring it up with Nerida, but that won't be a fun argument anymore. It was all your fault anyway.
I must get Luke on this podcast and talk all things starch and water soluble carbohydrate and laminitis. It will be interesting for sure. So Orla, you have been a guest on this podcast more than any other person. Has been a guest, and I so love these Q&As with you, and I'm very grateful to you for doing them with me, because it makes it a lot of fun, and I know people love listening to you. And we had one friend text us the other day going, oh my goodness, I'm listening to you too while I'm cleaning out stables, and just laughing. So I love having you, but I'm wondering whether you would be willing to take part in our clear round quick questions with no refusals.
Absolutely. Let's go. I've been thinking about this. Every time I listen to your episode, I'm like, what's my answers?
Well, very good. See, you prepared and you didn't even know you needed to. So first question is, what is your all-time favourite horse book or movie?
It's The Black Stallion. I think it came out in early 2000s. It's the one where it's minimal speaking in it.
Oh.
Watch it.
I don't know. Okay.
There's a stallion and there's a storm on a boat.
And I think the kid. Is it a remake one? No? It's the original one. I think it was
the original one's a long time ago. It was this one was early 2000s.
Oh, right.
It's good. I'm gonna actually have to go and watch it now again.
Actually,
I still like it.
I have watched a few. Tamara and I watched Seabiscuit not long ago because Kat said that her favourite movie was Seabiscuit. I'm like, much watch that. I actually watched the original Black Stallion. It was probably 10 years ago now, but it was when I was well and truly into my career as a nutritionist. I'm like, stop feeding it seaweed. It's going to die from iodine toxicity. I didn't think that when I saw it as a kid, but I definitely thought it when I saw it as an adult. Okay, what is one myth about horse nutrition you wish would disappear forever?
Oh, I actually have another at this one. I have so many.
I'll allow top 2.
All right, feeding hay before you ride.
As in, don't feed hay before you ride.
Don't, as in people who say don't feed hay before you ride.
We just need to clarify that you should feed hay before you ride.
100% feed any sort of fiber before you ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. And I also hate that people don't like canola oil. Canola oil is not that bad, so get rid of that myth.
It's such a stable oil, canola oil too. Like, you can leave it in, a non-dark, like a lot of oils you have to keep, like flaxseed oil. If you don't protect it from light a bit, it goes rancid. But canola oil, man, it's so stable.
Yeah. See, there we go.
Yeah, and I think the one with the don't feed before you ride. It's just humans thinking that horses are like us. If we eat before we run, it feels terrible.
Yeah,
but the horses are opposite to us. So yeah, they're 2 good ones. I'd be very happy for you to disappear them with your magic wand. Okay, if you could. Looking forward to your answer to this one. If you could ban one thing from the feed and supplement industry, what would it be?
Oh, is this a new question?
I told you that you weren't going to know all the questions. I made one up especially for you.
All right, sorry, say that again.
If there was one thing you could ban from the feed and supplement industry, what would it be? And it doesn't have to be an ingredient, just anything.
Oh, raw corn.
Raw corn. Yeah.
Raw corn.
Yeah.
Pretty boring answer. Sorry.
Good call.
Not as controversial as I think you were.
No. That's it. No, it doesn't need to be controversial. That's a brilliant one. That's a brilliant one. I think the first one that came to mind when I wrote that was bags that say grain free when they're not.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So if we got rid of those 2,
that would be my next one.
If you could ride any horse, past or present, which would it be?
The first horse that I remember riding was a little Palomino. I think it was called Skippy. And I think it was in Saudi Arabia. I'm not sure, but that's my memory of falling in love with horses.
Aww.
So I'd love to re-ride that horse.
That would be very cute. Very cute. And if you had 2 minutes with every horse owner in the world, what would you tell them?
Feed extruded grains and just give your horse a pat every day.
Yeah.
And thank them. Yeah, just thank your horses.
Yeah. Yeah. And come from that place of they do this for us.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, love it.
So I'm going to go and drag my horse out to the paddock and take him for a ride. Yeah. And thank you.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, thank you, Orla. It has been fun as always. And hopefully we'll catch you back here for another Q&A sometime soon.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Thanks, Orla. See you.
All right. Bye.
If you'd like to know more about the My Happy Horse virtual equine nutritionist, you can head on over to myhappy.horse. And also while you're there, check out the Dr. Nerida AI, which is me in AI format. And that version of me is happy to answer your questions about horse nutrition 24/7. Thanks again, and we'll catch you soon.